Welcome to Underdog Sports. I'm Connor Dixon. Today I have with me Dylan Mantello, professional lightweight MMA fighter. Dylan, thank you for joining us. So I'm going to get into it. Your nickname is the Quiet Man. Where does that come from?
Yeah, so the Quiet Man nickname is something that I kind of gave myself. Sometimes, in MMA gyms, you kind of wait around for other people to give you the nickname, but, it didn't materialize. So I wound up having to come up with my own. It's actually a John Wayne movie that I watched growing up with my dad. It's about a guy who's a boxer from Pittsburgh, and he winds up killing a guy in the ring in a fight and decides he wants to just run away from fighting and get away. So he moves to Ireland and tries to start a new life there. And, when he's there, he's trying to not fight and get into that kind of stuff. But he realizes that he does need to fight for different reasons. And, it's a movie that's kind of paralleled my life a lot. Growing up, I was getting in a lot of street fights and getting in a lot of trouble with that kind of stuff. So, I moved away. I went to Louisiana for school. And, when I was there, I started training. And I started doing boxing and martial arts and jujitsu, and I realized that I need to be fighting. It's something that I really love to do, but I need to be fighting for the right reasons. So it's kind of just something that's paralleled my life. And I'm a pretty quiet guy as well. I kind of just go about my business. So the nickname stuck, and people seem to like it, so it works.
Yeah, that's awesome. It makes for a cool pose too in all the pictures. So it
Yeah,
works out pretty well for you.
good branding. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And then you train with Longo and Weidman MMA, professional UFC fighters such as Aljamain Sterling and Merab Dvalishvili. Oh, there you go. They're ranked 1 and 2 in the UFC bantamweight division. How does being around such accomplished fighters like them help you?
Yeah, I mean it's invaluable. My whole amateur career and my pro career, I kind of had those guys to emulate. Aljamain was teaching most of the wrestling classes when I was coming up. The MMA wrestling classes against the cage, doing a lot of that hard work stuff, and we got to watch what it takes to compete and to fight at the highest level. Aljo's just a workhorse. Marab's a workhorse. Those guys, feed off each other to try to, get to the top of the sport. So not only technique, but just mentality. And, Marab's a guy that I've looked up to too, because, he comes from Georgia. He comes from, humble beginnings. And when he was here, he had to work construction when he was doing his amateur, pro fights and things like that. So, that's something that I've had to do as well. I had to, work to support myself while I trained and while I, pursued this dream of being a UFC fighter. So, I always look to him whenever I'm having a hard day. I'd be like, this is something that Merab did. If Merab can do it, it's possible. So just keep working and keep working. And, it's just a good atmosphere. We have a good team bond. It starts from the top. Ray Longo, Matt Serra, those guys, built this team. Chris Weidman was doing a lot of the teaching when I started here as well. He's since moved to Carolina, but it's a family culture. We all care about each other. We all love each other. We all want each other to do good, and iron sharpens iron. So it's something that I've tried to pass along to the younger guys, the amateurs on our team now, where you need to find good guys to have around you and push each other every single day if you want to get to the top.
For sure. That's awesome to have people around that have been at the highest level and be able to connect with them, not only fighting, but also personally.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of UFC, you recently caught the attention of them and you were on Dana White's Contender Series, which is super cool. And I wanted to congratulate you on that. Unfortunately, it didn't go the way you had hoped. What happened in that fight?
Yeah, so I was on a 2-fight winning streak at that point. I'd been in contact with the UFC to kind of get my name in the mix. My management, Ali Abdelaziz has a good relationship with them. So, I got in there in September. I had a really great training camp. The wheels kind of fell off a little bit. I don't like to make excuses, but towards the end of it, there was some personal stuff that kind of popped up where it kind of maybe caused some distractions in my mind. But I went in there. If you're in the cage, you're 100%. So whether you have any excuses or not. So when I was in there, I felt pretty good. I had a tough opponent. He was, 15-1, I think was his record. So I had a lot of experience. I think I just maybe rushed, one position, and gave up my back a little bit, kind of stupid mistake. And, at the highest level, you can't make little mistakes like that because, people capitalize and you'll get put away. So he wound up taking my back, got his arm under my neck pretty quickly. I fought the choke as hard as I could. I didn't tap or anything like that, so I went out on my shield. And it just it's just kind of one of those things. So it's not like I got outclassed. I didn't get beat up or anything like that. Just kind of snuck a choke in when I had a lapse in judgment, and that's the fight game. It happens. I've ruined a lot of people's nights. I've had a lot of wins on my record where a lot of guys go in there and they go home with a loss, and I go home with a W. So it's just live by the sword, die by the sword kind of thing. But I've had a loss before, some pretty heartbreaking losses. My first title fight with Ring of Combat was a loss, and then I had to come back and do a rematch for the belt, and I wound up winning the belt. And that loss made the win even sweeter when I had to come back from the loss. So the sport, martial arts, is amazing. It teaches you a lot, especially from the losses, how to appreciate things, how to work harder. And every loss that I've had on my record, I've bounced back and realized that I need to make changes, and that's what I've done this time. And the next version of myself is going to be the best by far. And I get 1 or 2 wins here early in the year, and I'm right back in the same position. And I'll be making sure that I punch my ticket to the UFC. I won't make the same mistakes.
For sure. That's a great mindset to have. And talk about, obviously, losses are lessons. You mentioned that briefly. What was your biggest takeaway from the fight?
Question. I think probably my biggest takeaway is that, I don't need to be in a rush when I'm in there. I have really great cardio, and any dogfight that I've been that goes into the 3rd round, I'm usually winning that fight. So, I don't need to be in a rush to get to my feet and give up bad positions and things like that. So, it's just going in there, making sure that you get to use all your tools. If the fight has to go a little bit longer and push the cardio, that's something that's to my advantage. So just don't be in a rush. And when you're in there, you got to go for it. You can't be passive, but you want to make sure that you're showing everything that you've done. You don't want to put in, 3 months of training camp and then, make a mistake and it ends up, the fight only goes 2.5 minutes, that kind of thing. So, every time you have a loss, it just opens your eyes to just things that you could be doing better in training. It's easy to coast a little bit when you have wins and you're on a win streak. But when you have a loss, it really, opens your eyes and shines some light on some things that you could be doing better. So that's just, that's how the sport goes, and that's what I'm doing right now.
For sure. And you talked about, obviously, the next time you get that opportunity, you're going to take it. What conversations have you had with Dana White and the UFC since that fight?
Yeah, so I actually just talked to my manager, Ali, yesterday. And the matchmakers like me. They've seen my other fights. They know that I come to fight. Even that fight, I don't even understand some guys that, they're in a rear naked choke and they end up tapping. I really don't even understand that. I mean, there's a referee there for a reason. If you go out, they're going to stop the fight and they're going to wake you up. Like, fight until you cannot fight anymore. And then, I just don't understand it. Arm bar is one thing. You don't want to have a snapped arm, obviously, but any kind of blood choke, I mean, go out on your shield. I think that you're going to lose anyway. You might as well go out on your shield. So, I think they like my style. I always come to fight. I've never been in a boring fight in my entire life. So, I think that they're interested in, having me back in the summer. Obviously you have to prove it.
For sure. And up until you get that second chance at the UFC, what are your plans as far as which promotion you'll fight with? Because you've been in a couple, kind of working your way up.
Yeah, so before I got signed before I did the UFC Contender Series, I was on a multi-fight deal with CFFC. So my next fight will be with them probably in February. I'm looking at hopefully right now. I just had a baby 4 weeks ago, so I'm kind of getting settled with the baby right now, and then I'm still training hard, obviously, but once we kind of get settled with the baby and that kind of thing, then it's going to be jumping right back into training camp and looking to get back in the CFFC cage. They have a great promotion. They have high-level guys. They have a lot of reach with their platform. So there's no letdown. You just got to get right back to it.
For sure. Well, I can't wait to see you fight, hopefully in February, and then anything that follows after. You seem to have a bright future, and hopefully big things coming soon. That concludes the interview, but I wanted to thank you again for coming on. I really appreciate it. I had a good time. And for Underdog Sports, I'm Connor Dixon.